Sandra, you want to come say hi to the kids? So can they hear me or just see
me? They can hear you perfectly fine.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on. I want to click so I can hear the classes.
All right, Mr. Bain. I have unclicked our mute, but most of them are already muted, but I think we are all here. And we're super excited, aren't we? So we definitely appreciate you taking the time to meet with us, and we have enjoyed listening to, because I taped my voice, so I didn't have to read it 3 separate times. So they listened to my voice read your writing. So we're very excited to finally meet the writer of Scary School.
Yeah, great. I'm excited. Hey, guys.
And I know we did this last year, and so these are 5th graders, and we are learning the writing process. And we talk about that it is a process, and you can't skip around the process, and that it's necessary. So we would love to hear how an author and all the work that it takes to make such a novel so interesting and entertaining.
Awesome. Yeah, I am happy to talk about that. So, has anyone here read the first Scary School book yet? Ooh, a bunch of you. Cool. All right. So let's see. Who wants to guess? We'll start off with a little game here. Who thinks you can guess how long it took me to write Scary School #1? Or any of that?
3 years.
Nick, how long do you think it took him to write it?
Let's see which class gets closest.
Oh, okay. So
About 4 years.
about 4 years, give or take.
Okay.
I think it took about 3 years.
What do you think?
3 years, okay.
We have a 1-year guess.
1 year, all right. So the answer is a little bit more complicated. So the closest one, which still wasn't very close, was 1 year. But it took me about a month to write a Scary School book. But there are 23 chapters in Scary School, and I try to write a chapter every single day. When you're a writer, it's very important that you try to write every single day. It's like when you do anything else, any other type of job, or you're learning an instrument or playing a sport, and you have to practice every single day in order to get good. Yeah. So when you're a writer, you have to do the same thing. You have to try writing every single day. And what's cool is like just like a sport or an instrument, like the more that you actually write, the better you get. So I've been writing for a while. That meant that it's pretty easy for me to write every day and come up with new ideas. So it took me about a month to write Scary School, and same for the other books, usually about a month to write the first draft. That's important. It's just the first draft. After you finish the first draft, there's a much longer process called editing and revising. Have you guys been working on that in school?
Yeah.
I know. It's a lot of work. It's actually my favorite part of the process, though, because I get to work with someone called an editor, who's kind of like a teacher, but for writers. So they work at the publishing company that makes the book and sends them out there, and they work with me to get it absolutely perfect before they send it out to all the bookstores. So that process takes usually like anywhere from 3 to 6 months, where we're working on it every single day, making sure the story is perfect and making sure the writing is perfect, and there's no errors. So that takes a long time. So that's a very, very important part of the process, and one that every writer has to do. And it usually takes a lot longer than the actual writing part. The writing part is kind of easy. You just get it all out there. And then the hard part, which part I happen to like, though, because I just see how much it improves and gets better and better, takes a lot longer. but it's absolutely crucial to do it. Good question.
So you tricked us when you said just, and it had only taken how long, guys?
A month.
So he tricked us because he was talking about that you also have to do what?
Editing.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it can vary. Sometimes books take longer than others to edit. Depends, how you do it the first time. Sometimes you do an amazing job the first time. It doesn't need much editing afterwards. Sometimes books require a lot more editing. It's kind of funny that way.
All right. Do you want a couple of questions?
Sure.
All right. Well, why don't we rotate through so that everybody gets a chance? Miss Payne's room, do you want to take the first question?
We will. All right, Liam, what's your question?
How long does it take you to brainstorm?
How long does it take you to brainstorm?
Oh, good question. So, in order to write the book in a month, like you were all seemed like pretty impressed by that. The reason I'm able to do it so quickly, I think, is because I brainstorm a lot ahead of time, which I call outlining. So what I do is I'll have an idea for a general story at first, which will be very, very basic. Like for Scary School #1, it could just be something like, okay, at the beginning, we're going to meet a bunch of the main characters that we're going to follow throughout the book. And then there's going to be an incident that happens. In this case, is they find out about the ghoul games, right? So they're going to find out that they have to get good at a game in order to beat the monsters that they're going to play against. And then there's a lot of chapters where the kids are getting to get ready for the ghoul games, and we're going to learn all about the school. And then at the end, they're going to play the ghoul games and have to figure out a way to beat all the other scary schools. So that's like a very basic thing. And then I take that and I'll go and make it a lot more detailed. Okay, so I'll start off, okay, for one chapter we're going to have about Charles New Kid, and one chapter we're going to have about Petunia. Then I have to go through and write down every single, what's called a beat that happens in the story. It's like little incidents that happen. Like, so for Charles New Kid, like a beat would be, he arrives at the school. He dips his toe in the moat. He meets Archie. He has to escape Archie. He meets Dr. Dragon Breath. He goes into the hallway. He gets lost. He bumps into the scary hall monitors. Like all these little things like that. So once you map out everything like that, the writing part actually becomes really easy because it's like you're following a recipe when you're cooking. You know exactly what to do next when you have a very detailed outline. And that can take, also kind of varies. I think the important thing is like you spend as much time on it as you need to. For a book, it can take maybe start off doing like a whole month to do it. Sometimes it could take a lot longer. It could take 6 months before you feel like you're actually ready to start writing. But it's really important because if you do that, you're probably not going to get writer's block and get stuck writing. I know that can happen a lot. But if you have everything mapped out beforehand, you kind of know what to do next so you don't get stuck.
Awesome. So those ideas and organization we're hearing is something that you can't skip in order to make sure that you have a good final product?
Yeah, some writers are different. I will say like that's very important. Like some writers map it out to the detail, but not every writer is the same. Some writers can just sit down and let it flow out of them, completely stream of conscious, as they call it. And that's a whole different style of writing. And every writer is kind of different in how they do it, how much preparation they do or not, you know?
All right, Miss Hannah?
Okay, Brady.
Why did Charles get in trouble when he wore the school uniform?
Good question. So at Scary School, it's a little weird with the school uniforms. If you remember, at Scary School, not wearing the school uniform is the school uniform. So if you're wearing the school uniform, you're out of uniform! It's a little confusing, I know, but it's if you remember the uniform at Scary School is, anyone remember? What's the school uniform at Scary School?
The white shirt, gray shorts.
Yeah, you got it. White dress shirt, gray shorts, and white dress shirt, gray shorts, and a polka dot tie. But it looks so silly, no one wears it. So none of the teachers even know what it looks like. So they just think that not wearing gray shorts, white dress shirt, and polka dot tie is the school uniform because no one ever wears that. But Charles New Kid is the only one who wears it because he loves following the rules. So he gets in trouble even though he's the only one actually following the rules. So at Scary School, I wanted to make things a little weird and different than regular schools, where you get in trouble if you don't wear the uniform, but at Scary School, you get in trouble for wearing the uniform.
All right. Okay, Pablo?
What interested you to write the book?
Good question. So when I was your guys' age, I was kind of a class clown. I liked making my friends laugh a lot. And as I grew older, I was still really good at it, making my friends laugh, but especially making kids laugh. So I wanted to write a book that would be like the funniest book ever, that would have you laughing like 3 times every page. But I was also kind of into scary things, like scary movies. Have any of you ever seen any scary movies? Oh, a bunch of you. Cool. Yeah. I thought, I wonder what it would be like if all of my favorite characters from those scary movies went to school together when they were kids. So when you read the books, if you remember from Scary School #1, you remember meeting an 11-year-old Freddy Krueger or Jason. So I thought, and so when I had that idea, hold on one second, I'm going to turn off my phone. When I had that idea, I started kind of writing out and thinking of ideas for stories like that, and ended up being really funny. So it kind of fit in my whole thing that I like to do of being funny, but also liking scary things. So if you guys are writing books, what I recommend is to think of something that you guys love. Like I like scary things like monsters, but you could be into other stuff like sports or cars or princesses or dragons or fairies, whatever. So if you write about something you love, I found that it actually becomes really, really fun and makes the writing a lot easier. So when you guys are writing your books, hopefully, a good starting point is to think of what you love the most and write stories about that. So I was interested in writing the Scary School books because I happen to love monsters and weird things, and also being funny and humor. Great question.
All right, Miss Payne's room, you got another question?
Do you draw your pictures?
Good question. The answer to that is no. The artwork is actually done by this guy right here. You see his name? His name is Scott Fisher. He's really famous. He's like considered one of the best children's book illustrators alive. So that's a really actually cool part, I think, is even though I'm an okay artist, but I'm not great like Scott is. So just because you happen to not be an artist doesn't mean you can't have pictures in your books, because if your book needs pictures, you can get a friend to do the drawings for you. Or in my case, my publisher goes out and they find the very best artists in the world to do the drawings. So you can still have pictures in your books if you don't happen to be not a great artist, or if you are an artist, you can just do the art for the books if you happen to not be as much into the writing part of it. So there are illustrators who just do illustrations. There are people who do both, and that's a great too. They love that if you can do both, or you can just do the writing. Yeah.
Miss Hannah.
There. Okay.
Why would Nurse Harry Moss cure a virus and give you a new one?
That's a great question.
That's a good question, yes. In the book, it kind of tells about how she does that. In chapter 3 of Scary School, we learn all about Nurse Harry Moles. Well, she's actually like the best school nurse in the world because she can cure absolutely anything like that using her witch magic. But there's also a part of her, because she's kind of an evil witch, she gives you another sickness after you get that one, after she cures you. That way the kids are always getting sick and they always need her. So it's just kind of like a funny thing. Like I thought about, in a regular school, you'll have a nurse who will take care of you and get you better and then send you on your way, and that's the end of it. But at Scary School, things are always a little different and weird. So you can never really trust even the school nurse. And I thought that was kind of just a funny idea.
Hey, come face me. There you go.
How many books have you made?
Oh, good question. Let's go through them all. So we have Scary School number 1, which a lot of you have seen. There's Scary School number 2, Monsters on the March. Scary School number 3, The Northern Frights. That one might be one of my favorite covers of the series. I think that one is really cool. And I'm not sure any of you have seen this one. This one is pretty new. There's also Scary School number 4, Zillions of Zombies. Whoa, you guys see those zombies? That one is very, very new. So there's 4 books in the Scary School series. I also have this book, which you guys are probably a little old for, but if you have younger brothers and sisters, it's called El Perro con Sombrero, a bilingual doggy tale. It's all about my dog, who's over there somewhere. Maybe he'll come say hi. Who is a homeless dog who doesn't have a family, but then a lucky sombrero lands on his head and turns his life around. And it's written in both English and Spanish. So if you're learning any languages, you can actually learn both languages just by reading the book. If you know English, it'll help you learn Spanish, or it'll help you learn English if you speak Spanish. There you go. That one is more for the picture age crowd. I also have this book called Simon and the Solar System. Ooh. It's all about outer space. If you guys are into outer space, anyone's into that, it's about a kid who gets to go on a tour of the solar system with this kind of funny-looking alien named Neil Newton to help him study for his astronomy test. I also have another book called Rudy and the Beast, My Homework Ate My Dog, which is kind of like Harry Potter. It's about a kid who gets magical powers and has to rescue his dog from an evil wizard that kidnaps him. I want to see if my dog wants to say hi to you guys. Kinder, they want to say hi to you. Come on. Come on. There he is. Come on. Yeah, he wants to play. Cool. Yeah, so I have a lot of books out there, and I even have a new book coming out in just a few weeks. It's actually my first book for grown-ups called Kubrick's Game. It's similar to Ready Player One or The Da Vinci Code, if any of you have ever heard of those. It's a puzzle adventure. It has to do with, it's like all set in the world of the movies. That's a book more for the grown-up crowd, though, or for high school or older than that. So when you guys get older, you'll definitely be reading that one.
All right, Ms. Payne's room, do you have another question?
Are you thinking about writing another series of books?
Yeah. Good question. So I have a couple more middle grade books. That's like for the Scary School age crowd. I have a book that I'm working on right now called Principal Mikey, about a 10-year-old kid who becomes principal of his school. And I have a series I'm working on called The Mootants, M-O-O-T-A-N-T-S, about cows that get superpowers. The Mootants. Get it? So those are a couple of things I'm working on for you guys right now. And then I might be doing more Scary School books too, if you guys want them.
Yeah.
Hi, Xander. Xander's saying hi. There he is. There he is. You guys see the resemblance for the dogs here? Looks a lot like him, right? He's probably more famous than me now. Uh-oh.
Justice, it's time for justice.
How old were you when you wrote your first book?
Good question. So the first book I wrote was actually a picture book similar to Simon and the Solar System. When I was just 15 years old, I wrote my first book. But I was always writing weird, silly stories. I started back when I was just 7 years old. I was actually a kid. I remember during free reading time, I would actually choose to read the dictionary because I wanted to learn big, weird new words that I could even stump my teachers with. They wouldn't know the meaning of. And so I was always really into new words, and I loved reading and writing. But the cool thing about it is you'd never be too young to be an author. In fact, I know 12-year-old twin girls who have a whole series of science fiction books in bookstores, just like Star Wars, and they're only 12 years old. So you're never too young to become an author as long as you're a good writer. But the question is, how do you become a good writer? Ooh, let's play another game. Let's see if you guys can guess how to become a good writer. And I'll give you a hint. All you have to do is two things. Blank and blank. Let's see if you can guess what those two things are. One word each.
Hey,
What do you think?
Amari, what do you think? What do you think? Addison? What do we think, Nick?
Cite your work.
Cite your work. We need to cite our work.
If you're writing nonfiction or a term paper, that's important. But you don't have to do that in fiction when you write other books.
Addison, do you think what else?
Edit and revise.
Edit and revise is what Miss Addison said.
That's close to what I'm thinking of. That's very close. What is editing and revising part of? Like a more general word for that whole process.
Writing process.
Read and write.
Yeah, that's it. One of them is write. What's the other one? Write and? I heard someone say it. Yeah, you got it. I heard it. It started with an R. Read. Yes. To become a good writer, all you have to do is two things: read and write. And guess what? The more you read and the more you write, the better writer you'll become. It's like magic. So read and write as much as you can now, and who knows, by the time you're 12, you could be writing your own books. Great questions.
All right, do we have any other questions that we might want to ask? Thank you so much for taking your time to do this, and I think the kids, they really enjoy hearing what a real author has to do, and that's not just their teachers telling them to go through that process, that it's actually kind of necessary. So, Ms. Paintrim, do you have one more question maybe?
Where are you from? Where are you from?
See the dog down there? Yeah. Where am I from?
Yeah.
I'm out in Los Angeles, all the way across the country. So I'm from this whole area out here. You guys are all in Georgia, right?
All right, Miss Hannah, do you have one more question maybe?
We have a lot.
Most of ours have already been answered. The ones I have written down.
Who are your favorite authors?
Ooh, good question. So I have different favorite authors. I remember when I was, for children's authors, ones you guys might like, I actually, when I started writing children's books, because just very randomly when I was in high school, around 15 years old, I became re-obsessed with Dr. Seuss. Like, I loved Dr. Seuss when I was a kid, and all of a sudden when I became older, I just fell back in love with his books, and I reread them all, and I always liked writing poetry and rhyming stuff, so his books really spoke to me, and I thought that I could write books like he did. And then as I got older, around the time when I was in college, I got super into Harry Potter. Like, I love Harry Potter, and I still do. And so I love J.K. Rowling. And I also love Louis Sachar. If you guys have read any of his books, Sideways Stories from Wayside School or Holes, stuff like that. Those are probably my biggest inspiration for the Scary School series, is the Wayside School series. That's one is like, when I was a kid, that was the funniest book I had ever read, period, and probably still is. It's all about like a crazy, weird school, similar to Scary School, but not scary themed, just like really weird, silly, crazy themed school. And it is so, so funny. So for your guys' age, those are probably my 3 favorite authors.
All right, one more question. You want to go ahead and stand up, sweetie? You can go ahead and ask.
How long did it take for the illustrator to draw the cover?
Good question. Probably takes him a lot longer than it took me to write. Like, they work on it a lot. I'm actually not too involved in the process when they do it, so I'm not sure how long it might take him. Like, he might do a draft and send it out, and they give him notes. He has to do it again. So it's very similar to the writing process, where he'll do a first draft of a cover, send it out to the publisher and to me to look at, and we send him back notes, and he has to go through and edit and revise his art. So it's the same process. It can take 3 months, 6 months, maybe even a year to get all the illustrations done in the book. So yeah, just like the writing, just as much work.
Does the illustrator have to read the book before he does the drawing?
Yes, that's very, very important. He reads the book and makes notes on everything of how the characters are described, so he draws them correctly. And he has to read about like what the best moments are he thinks that would make for the best pictures to draw. So he reads the book very, very carefully.
All right. I know that we're taking valuable time. Any other words of wisdom you might have for us 5th grade brand new authors?
Let me see. Last time did we read a chapter? Was there time for that this year or not? I can't remember.
I don't think we did last year, but we would love, because we're also studying how figurative language and making images in people's minds, how important that is. So if you want to, if there's a favorite passage, we would love to maybe hear it and have your thoughts on it.
Ooh, okay.
Does anything stand out?
Make a movie.
Let me see. I was thinking about showing you guys something from the brand new book, Scary School number 4.
Oh, yes,
Okay. So I'll read a little bit from this. When you read the book, there's a lot of really fun, weird chapters like in the other Scary School books, but there's one chapter in particular that kids seem to love the most, which also happens to be probably the scariest chapter in the book. Chapter 11, Chunky, the Evil Doll. Ooh. Any of you ever heard of Chucky?
Yes.
This is sort of like that, but it's about another different evil doll named Chunky. So this is kind of my spin on that. So it starts off about a little girl. Once upon a time, there was a little girl named Marnie. She had a tiny button nose and wispy blonde hair that curled above her neck like ribbons on presents. Even though Marnie was the nicest 7-year-old girl you could ever hope to meet, she didn't have any friends because her parents wouldn't let her have any. It's not that her parents were cruel. They were simply terrified. Marnie wasn't born with a working immune system. That meant that her body wasn't able to defend itself against germs and viruses, so even a common cold could do her in. At home, she had to stay inside a room that was wrapped in industrial-strength plastic. The only time she saw the outside world was through a small window that was welded shut. During the day, she would see the other neighborhood children riding their bikes, and at night she would watch the stars twinkling. Sometimes she would talk to the stars and imagine that the twinkles... Xander, let's go dance. And imagine that the twinkles were them talking back to her. You all see Marnie in there? Let's see. I'll skip ahead a little bit. On her 8th birthday, Marnie's parents went to a toy store to pick her out a present. She made them walk up and down every aisle so she could see every toy before choosing. She decided she wanted a doll, and one immediately caught her eye because it was a little different from the rest. The doll's name was Chunky. It had bright orange hair, overalls, and was, shall we say, a little bit rounder in the middle than the other dolls. The clerk told her parents that Chunky had been sitting on the shelf for years, collecting dust, because no kid wanted a tubby doll. Marnie knew it was meant to be hers. That doll was probably just as lonely as she was. So then Marnie takes Chunky home. I'll stop right there, I guess. And she wishes upon a star for Chunky to be a real boy. But the problem is, she doesn't wish upon a star, actually. She actually wishes upon the planet Venus. And Venus is a planet that's filled with sulfur and volcanoes and is hotter than an oven. But when you wish upon an evil place like that, only bad things can happen. So the Venus godmother shows up and turns Chunky into an evil doll. But then later we find out that having an evil doll live with her makes her feel really alive for the first time in her life and wanting to explore the world. So she writes to Scary School and ends up getting an invitation to go there. And they make her a special suit to protect her from all the germs and viruses so she can go to Scary School. And maybe Chunky even finds out a way to go with her to school too, but you'll have to read the chapter to find out how. Sorry. Sorry. But Chunky and him plays a very important part of the story, so make sure you read it because he's a very important part. When the zombies attack Scary School, he has a very important role to play. Whoa.
Hi.
Lottie the Ninja Girl? She's pretty cool.
We are very excited. I think they're actually looking forward to the rest of the series now.
Yeah.
And hopefully more motivated in our own writings also. So what do we say?
One last thing before you go, okay? Make sure that you visit scaryschool.com. It's kind of like a part of the books. So when you finish chapter 1, you have to go to scaryschool.com to unlock the secret chapter that will lead you right into book 2. You can also do a lot of fun stuff on the website. You can play a video game. And if you beat the game that's on the website, you will win the weirdest trophy you've ever seen. You can also tour the school, meet the students and teachers, and unlock those secret chapters. Plus, if you guys are writing your own stories like I just heard, you can actually email me. You can email me through the Scary School website your stories. And if I like them, I'll post it on my website for all my fans to see. So your story, or you can do artwork if you like art, You can do a artwork of the Scary School characters. Your story or your artwork could get really famous. All my fans will see it. So make sure you do that if you finish your stories or do your artwork, okay?
Sounds good.
I have a big question. I have about one.
All right. Thank you so much. We're going to leave the meeting. We appreciate it as always and are looking forward to your new work.
Awesome, guys. Thanks so much. And keep reading, everyone. You got me excited. Say bye, Xander.